All right, good day, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Mzansi's MMA show, the show where two stand-up comedians bring you the funny and the insight in all things MMA, UFC, EFC, boxing matches, celebrity boxing matches, the works. Today's episode is brought to you, of course, by Sheer Plasters. Sheer Plasters brought to you by Clicks. So our sponsorship for this episode is Clicks, and not just any Clicks. Clicks pharmacies that have sheer plasters, the fixes of all boo-boos. So, ladies and gentlemen, on this episode, joined once again by my fellow commentary deliverer, the Couch Ninja. Couch, what's up?
Hey Prince, how you doing, man?
Now I'm cool, man. It's lockdown level 3 out here in Johannesburg. So we are back indoors. But of course, as you know, the UFC is still continuing. And speaking of continuing, coming up very soon is UFC 264, which is headlined by the notorious Conor McGregor and Dustin Poirier. There are a few other fights, Couch, that are on that card. Let's speak about those fights first, if you would. The one fight there is Stephen Wonderboy Thompson versus Gilbert Burns. What do you think about that fight?
So that fight's going to be great because Gilbert Burns has a lot to prove coming off a loss, and Wonderboy has a lot to prove maintaining his winning momentum. So I think both guys are going to come out guns blazing. I hope that Wonderboy sticks to that more aggressive style that he's been displaying in some of his more recent fights, so that it's not a case of him just trying to run away from Burns, who's a lot more come at you kind of fighter. So I hope it doesn't degenerate into him dancing around Burns while Burns chases him and tries to score a knockout and give him
Yeah.
give him an injury so bad he needs a clicks plaster to sort that shit out, you know?
Clicks plasters, sheer plasters, fixing up all Gilbert Burns' boo-boos. So
Exactly.
the crazy thing about that is I think Gilbert Burns obviously power punching. He is Brazilian, so you do know you're gonna get that Brazilian jiu-jitsu game.
Mhm.
Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, karate kickboxer specialist. I do see Wonderboy. He can have success against Burns, just because I saw Burns get picked apart with a jab by Usman. That telling me that he is perhaps susceptible to pinpoint accurate attack. So not necessarily guys who are coming in with power or with speed
Mm.
or with whatever, just pinpoint accuracy. And I think that is where Wonderboy Thompson can do what Usman did, but not just with the jab, but both hands, both legs, knees, timing, pinpoint accuracy. On Gilbert Burns, I know Stephen Wonderboy Thompson has a wonderful takedown defense as well. So for Gilbert to get that jiu-jitsu in play would be a little bit harder. Gilbert Burns very explosive, but once again, explosiveness is always countered very well by well-placed counters, whether it be knees, kicks, or a punch. So yeah, I think Gilbert Burns has a tough fight ahead of him for this one.
It's a good follow-up fight. I think what's also interesting about, you mentioned the last fight, Usman versus Burns. You know, I think what was so great about that fight is that actually Burns was probably considering more of a match of wrestling. So I think Usman actually surprised Burns with how his level of striking had gone up, because that was a
Yeah,
clear improvement of Usman's striking skills. So I think that's actually what
yeah,
caught Burns out a bit in that fight.
yeah.
So
The striking.
he might adopt a more pro wrestling approach for this, or I don't know how. Burns is no slouch in the striking department either. Remember, he rocked Usman.
No, not at all.
So
Yeah,
I
not at
think
all.
he's probably going to go with a more sort of Khabib style approach, which is aggressive but competent striking, followed by wrestling. That's if I was
Yeah,
Burns, that's how I would approach the fight.
definitely. Confidence striking and obviously pushing the wrestling later on the floor, pushing the jiu-jitsu moves if it gets there. And of course, looking for those big power punches at all times. Got the big looping right, big looping left. Those are the ones that generally tend to drop guys. They come with a lot of power and they come with a lot of speed. So he definitely has that on his side as well. I still think Wonderboy Thompson, if he comes out and he fights the way he's been fighting recently, should definitely be able to, deal with the explosiveness, deal with the big power punches, hopefully be out of range or in range. He's very good at managing that range. Like, it's very seldom for Wonderboy to get caught with like a big match finishing fight. Anthony Pettis caught him with the Superman punch, but that's all about the displacement of timing, isn't it? Like, a Superman punch finishes your timing. I think for
A
Gilbert Burns
well
coming with like,
a well executed Superman punch is the same as a well executed spinning back fist, yeah?
yeah, dude. Like, it throws off the timing because putting back first is the first shot that you're looking for. Then, for some strange reason, the second shot is on its way. The timing of your defense goes a bit off there. Superman punch is supposed to be a normal punch, but the little jump delays it by like a couple of seconds, so it throws off your whole defense. Like in cricket, they call it a slower delivery.
Yeah,
In cricket, where
yeah,
you bowl the full motion, but the ball comes slower than what the motion was. It just throws off the timing. So it doesn't have to be a fast ball or a powerful ball. The timing is just off,
yeah.
and then it gets you. So other than beating Wonderboy Johnson on the timing, I don't think Power does it anymore. No one really does that to Wonderboy, and also like the takedowns. Wonderboy's faced so many guys whose strengths are the takedowns and the wrestling, but guys don't take him down. That
He
that
does tend
wide
to
karate
dance away
style.
from them.
Yeah,
That's
that
true.
wide moving karate stance means that no one actually gets a hand on him. Tyron Woodley couldn't get a hand on him, you
He
know.
just irritates me sometimes because he's definitely one of those. He's like Israel Adesanya. He's a um, draw fighters in fighter rather than an aggressive
Evasive.
fighter. And I think that's kind of why Connor was so exciting, because I always feel that Connor's style is almost like an aggressive version of the draw someone in, because he's also got that wide karate style. He's almost
Yeah,
like the aggressive karate guy. He comes at you
yeah.
with that
But he
wide
moves
stance.
forward.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So
He moves forward, whereas Wonderboy normally tends to bounce away.
yeah,
So you
yeah,
bounce into range, out of range, but mostly
yes.
away from the range until you overstep the line slightly. Then of course he pops you. But he's way more I wouldn't say aggressive, but his work rate has definitely
Yeah.
increased. So whereas he used to hop around and land one punch, now he's hopping and doing three.
Mm.
And doing that consistently over 3 rounds, consistently over 5 rounds. So yes, he's not finishing guys, but his decision victories are Max Holloway style. Like, the dude wears the rounds on his face when he goes home. People are like, "Yo, man, were you in a 5 round fight?" He's like, "Is it that obvious?" Like, yeah, your face shows it.
It's nice when a fighter comes back from a loss like that, hey? When he gets knocked out.
Yeah, yeah. Wonder Boy is the last of the old folk left. Like, who are still winning. I mean, the other old folk aren't winning anymore. The likes of your Nate Diaz, who lost recently. They're the old folk. They're not winning anymore. The other old folk like Jacare, the other old folk like Yoel Romero, these guys all got signed off the UFC recently. So Wonderboy is really the last of that. Like, Tyron Woodley is part of the
On his
old
way
folk,
out.
and he's out of the UFC now as well.
Is he officially out?
Not I think he's out of the UFC. I don't think he's fighting in the UFC anymore. He went and signed that boxing contract, so I guess that's where
Is he gonna fight Jake
maybe.
Paul as well?
Yeah, I think he's fighting Jake Paul 100%.
It's like I think Jake Paul is like he's like the retirement guy for all the MMA fighters. He's like the old age
Yeah,
home.
dude, they're all going the Jake Paul route now. Ben Askren went through there. Tyron Woodley's going through there. Up next, Gilbert Burns or Wonderboy Thompson will be going through there. So no, so yeah, Wonderboy Thompson, the last of the old folk. Remember Cowboy? Cowboy's also out now. After his last loss, Dana was like, we
Yeah,
really have to consider hard whether we want to see him or not see him. The
yeah.
fight would have to make sense. So Cowboys, the old folk,
Cowboys
they
and
gone
is
now.
definitely in BJ Penn territory. I think I think
He's lasted longer though.
yeah. I think Ferguson's got one more fight in him. One more fight. And
He's
then
the old folk. Yeah, that's also Tony Ferguson. These are the old folk guys. Like, the UFC is. I think me and you have reached the end of our era of like guys who were performing in our time of watching and so forth. Never mind the OGs that we've watched. All the guys we knew when we started watching MMA, like they are basically gone now. Basically gone. There's new faces, a lot of new faces.
Young
There's
man
another fight
sport.
on the card
High
to look
turnover.
out for.
It's like
The
staff at a bar or a restaurant. You don't see their faces that long.
Yeah, bro. Like after 5 years, you're like, "Where's my favorite barman?" Like, yo,
It's
dude,
like,
whoa, 5 years? Are you crazy? This not a school teacher. What the hell's wrong with you? Any school you go back to still has the school teachers that were there when you were a kid,
who's
even
our
till this
favorite
day.
barman? He's fighting Jake Paul.
Yeah, yeah, he's a retired barman. Speaking of youngsters, on the card we also have Sugar Shane O'Malley.
Hmm.
He'll be fighting a guy called Louis Smoker. I don't really know much about Louis Smoker, but I do know much about Sugar Shane O'Malley, and he's on a road to redemption. He lost one, he dropped one, but fortunately he has now come back and he did the beautiful walk off KO in his previous fight, if you remember. So Louis Smoker is next in line. Don't know much about Louis, but for this one, I'm saying all the best to Sugar Sean. May he start continue rising and may he get to the title again. I think he needs to get to the title.
Yeah. Do you want to discuss the bets you're going to place with our official betting partner, Betway?
Yeah. What do you want to do?
Do you want to talk about the bets you're going to place on the fights?
Oh yeah, hell yeah. So my bets so far for these fights, I'm actually scared to bet nowadays because I've been doing terribly. But if I were to put some money on these ones, which I probably will, I'm definitely gonna go. It's a tough one for me, but I want to choose Stephen Wonderboy Thompson over Gilbert Burns.
Mm. Yeah,
And then
guys.
I want to go for Sugar Shane over Louis Smolka.
Yeah, that's my thinking. We'll get to the main event in a second.
Yeah.
And I just want to remind our viewers, like this betting thing, like we're not experts, right? And winners know when to stop. So, like, if you feel that you like, if it's a choice between like buying bread for your kids and placing a bet, probably probably
Yeah.
buy some
Buy
bread.
the bread.
Yeah.
Unless you place a good bet, then you can buy them pizza.
I would like to know if anyone is making like actual survival money off this thing, or but the chances are that you couldn't survive sports betting. But yeah,
The thing is, you just need to get them right. Like at the end of the day, you just
yeah,
need to get them right. It's not easy to get them right, but because I've
yeah,
realized, and me and you spoke about this the other day when it comes to betting, is like watching MMA or watching a fight as a fan and choosing your favorite
yeah,
fighter who's gonna win. It's very different to choosing who you want to put your money on. Because the guy that you love and you fan and you really, really want him to win is not necessarily the guy you want to put your money on.
exactly,
The
exactly.
guy
Got
you
to
put
take
your money on is the
emotion out
guy
of it.
that you think will win. Yeah.
You got to
Or
take
else you
emotion out of
suffer.
it. Yeah, like
Yeah,
that's what
you've
happened
got
with
to
me
go
with
with.
Ngannou. Like I was like, oh, I hope Ngannou wins, but I was like, the smart money's on Stipe, and I was going to make more money
Yeah,
if Stipe won. So
yeah,
I was sad that I
yeah,
lost. So I think the rule of thumb, guys, is just never bet more than you're prepared to lose, right? Because especially in this
yeah,
thing, it's either red or black. But yeah,
yeah,
as far as the undercard goes, for me, I have had a decent amount of luck with my bets, but I think I've only
yeah.
got like I'll put a little bit of money on Sugar Shane. I'll only place two bets. So one of them is Sugar Shane to beat his next opponent. I feel like he's on a good, he's fighting well,
Trajectory.
on a
Yeah,
good thing.
yeah. And he's mad talented and mad skillful, mad dexterous. Did a lot of crazy things in his last fight. The opponent really didn't stand too much chance. Look,
Mm.
I've learned also not to like bet um on a fight where you don't know the opponent because you don't know these guys.
Yeah,
Louis Smoke, you don't know this guy until he knocks out Sugar Shane. Now
yeah,
everyone knows Louis Smoke, and you like,
yeah.
damn, if only I had done some research. But I think in this case, I'm lazy to do the research. I'm going with
Yeah.
Sean O'Malley.
Although, you know what I will do, because that's a good point, Prince. I might check out a couple of this Louis Smoker's highlight reels, or at least check
You
his
never
last
know with these
record.
guys.
Like make
Yeah,
the smart bet. Yeah.
yeah.
It's
No
not
one really knew
it's not
what you
really a
say.
division I follow that much as well. That's also a risk with betting these divisions you don't know well, right? Like
Yeah,
so, like the divisions I feel safer betting on are, like, for me, anything up from lightweight, like all the divisions leading up to, so those like younger
yeah.
divisions there I don't really fucks with.
Yeah, those flyweights will trick you. You out there like, yo, Davison Figueiredo. Then here comes Moreno. You like, who the heck is this guy now?
Yeah,
Takes all your money.
beautiful
Because
fight
I'm sure
though
people
that.
who, yeah, beautiful fight,
Yeah.
definitely. But I mean, even people who betted on that first fight, they must have been like, damn, that was close, man. I nearly
Mm.
lost it. Like, because Figueiredo seemed like safe money at some point. When
Right?
he took the belt, when he beat
And
Aldo, I
fought so
think,
many times in
no,
a
no, yeah, beat
row. He
Aldo.
was fucking guys up.
Yeah, yeah. You'd be like, yeah, for sure, Figueiredo for sure. Then Moreno was like, oh. But in that
Okay.
second fight, Moreno did it right. But let's move on. Let's talk about the main event of UFC 264, the main event, of course, Dustin Poirier versus Conor McGregor. Let me just give you an update. In Conor McGregor's last 5 fights, he has beaten Nate Diaz. He has won against Eddie Alvarez. Then he lost to Khabib Nurmagomedov. Then he won to Donald Cerrone, and then he lost to Dustin Poirier. So the last 5 fights, he's won 3. And similarly with Dustin Poirier in his last five fights, he's beaten Eddie Alvarez, he's beaten Max Holloway, he lost to Khabib Nurmagomedov, so they have a shared opponent. Then he beat Dan Hooker, then he beat Conor McGregor, of course, in their previous fight. So in his past 5 fights, he's won 4, and in McGregor's past five fights, he's won 3. So those are the current standings in terms of form.
So
Right. So
this
what's your take
is
on that one?
so let me talk about my bet first, right? And this is what's going to happen. I'm going to bet on Connor to win, and he's going to
Yeah.
lose. Because every time, like, I'm convinced he's going to win, he loses.
Yeah.
If he does win,
So I
uh, look, I just feel that he can also shock the world every now and then. Like he's usually quite good off a loss, like
yeah.
coming back after Diaz. So that's why I'm putting money on him, actually, because I think he's a better guy in a rematch. Um,
Do you know, do you know what I want to check out? I just want to see what the odds are for that McGregor Poirier fight.
do you think? It would be hilarious if Conor was a favorite.
Who do you think is a favorite? For sure, Poirier should definitely be a
He's
favorite,
got to be a
surely.
favorite, yeah. Also, if I put money on Conor, I don't have to put that much if he's the underdog to get money back. So
Okay, here we go. Poirier versus McGregor. It's close. No, you'll make no money either way. Like
no.
Poirier is a 1.81, McGregor's a 1.82.
Okay.
So no matter who you put your money on, if they win, you'll get almost the exact same amount.
So maybe I
Does that make
think
sense?
maybe other people think that Connor's good off a rematch, and that's purely why I'm going for that bet. And I also want to
Yeah.
see, like, if Connor does lose every time, like if I put money on him, will he lose? Because there's times that I thought he was going to win, but he lost, but I never
Yeah.
put money on it. So now it will be the ultimate test. Like if I put money on Connor, if I put money and belief on Connor, will he lose?
So this is your own personal little
It's my
voodoo
own personal
experiment.
little universe experiment.
There's nothing to do with Betway. Betway is
No,
like we have
dude.
nothing to do with this.
I don't look at the shit like I don't look at this shit and be like, oh, and I'm doing like all kinds of deep analysis and shit. Like I could tell you that I'm like being super scientific about this shit, but mostly it's like a
Yeah.
hunch or an
It's
experiment.
philosophical. You're an
Yeah,
astronomer.
yeah.
Dude, do you know what? The odds for Conor McGregor and Dustin Poirier are equal.
They're about equal, eh? Okay, so a lot of other
Yeah,
people think that Connor's in with a fighting chance. Who would you put
like
money on?
50. Definitely Dustin Poirier.
Okay.
But I will say this. If anything, you see, because of COVID-19 and so forth, we don't see guys for a long time, and then we see them, and then they're in the fighting ring. You know what I'm saying? So, one thing that I've learned in the Davison Figueiredo versus Moreno fight, and also the Israel Adesanya versus Marvin Vettori fight, is that because we don't see these guys a lot, when we do see them at the press conference, that's when you can kind of tell where they are in terms of where they were the last time you saw them, which could be a year ago, months ago, 2 years ago, sometimes.
Yeah.
So it was very telling to see Marvin Vittori not handle things well against Adesanya. It was very telling to see Davison Figueiredo not handle things well in the press conferences against Moreno, and we saw how that went. So I feel, for me, Conor has won one. He knocked Dustin out. That time Dustin had a weak mindset apparently, and that's how Conor beat him. The second time Dustin had a super strong mindset, and Conor had the ring rust, so Dustin beat Conor. I'd like to see when they step into the conference this time. I'd want to see who has shifted, because clearly there's a mental edge seesaw going on here. 1 minute McGregor's up, 1 minute the other guy, So now I'd like to see who is mentally in the better place. I think physically, Dustin Poirier probably will still have the endurance. He still has all the fight experience. He's battle tested, if you want to put it that way. But Conor's slick, Conor's a crafty, skillful vet. I want to see the mental state of both these guys before I place money on any of them.
Really interesting point there. And this is something that I want to ask our watchers. Like, what do you guys think of the presses? Because you're right. I enjoy the presses, actually, and I'm really enjoying them again now that there's fans. That whole atmosphere, it is such a good way to gauge psychological warfare. And you can sort of get a lot of, like you say, you can get a lot of insight into them. Like, I personally feel, especially in the last couple, like you could see Tony Ferguson was losing his mind. The Tony
against Arush.
Yeah. And
he wasn't right.
Yeah, and the one before as well. I mean, Israel was living in Vittori's head rent free. So I think you're absolutely right. The press is a great place to get a gauge on what's happening psychologically. So
yeah.
So even though we're not
especially fighters especially for guys that we haven't seen, because back in the day, gents used to fight all the time. They fight this guy, that guy, this guy was also be fighting. So you knew what was going on with each fighter. But now, because of these long COVID breaks and this and that and the other, we haven't been able to keep track of everyone. And that's why I say in these instances, the press conference becomes particularly telling, especially for somebody who's trying to make money off the fight and not lose money. You should watch those and, get a gist for it. But yeah. So Dustin Poirier for me for now. And Conor McGregor for you for now. And that's UFC 264 basically. Anything else you'd like to add?
Just that, remember, I know we're not getting out a lot at all, but if you're at home chopping vegetables or whatever, and you cut yourself, there's only one thing to do.
Sheer Blasters brought to you by Clicks.
And that's my final word.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Mzansi's MMA show. We're looking to do a lot of new stuff, vibrant stuff this year. Great plans ahead. But this is our preview for UFC 264. This is the comedian formerly and informally known as Prince, joined by
the Couch Ninja. Peace out.
Thank you.